deep within the very core of creation itself. Long before the rise of mighty kingdoms and brave warriors, there existed nothing but utter chaos. It was a time when swirling, tumultuous energies dominated the universe, and the land was shaped by unpredictable forces. Amidst this chaos, there were flowing rivers, believed to be blessed by the gods themselves, their waters winding serenely through the storm of tumult around them. These rivers carried a sense of divine favor and tranquility in the midst of chaos, offering a glimpse of order amidst disorder. Alongside these sacred waters, there were towering walls, imposing structures built to impose security and stability in an otherwise tumultuous world. These walls stood as symbols of hope and refuge, promising safety to those brave enough to seek shelter within their great spans, as the chaos of creation continued to swirl around them. But amidst the tumult and disorder, a new power emerged, a force that defied all expectations, unlike anything seen before. It was a god not forged from celestial constellations or divine realms high above the mortal world, but instead born from the relentless, pounding rhythm of iron being struck and shaped. This deity came into existence through the deafening clangs of hammers on anvils and the roaring heat of the fiery forge, which fueled its very essence. It was a creation of raw, primal energy sculpted through sweat, fire, and the unyielding will to transform chaos into strength, emerging as a formidable presence forged in the heart of relentless industry. His name is Ogun, the formidable god of iron and war, a figure both revered and feared by many. His presence cast a long shadow across the land, and tales of his might and influence echoed through generations. While some trembled at the sound of his name, others recognized that his role was vital to the forging of civilizations. Without Ogun's strength and guidance, progress and growth might have come to a halt. Many stories tell of his mastery over the metalwork that shaped tools, weapons, and infrastructure, underscoring his essential role in human development. But the question remains, how did such a powerful deity ascend to his rightful place at the pinnacle of divine authority? What events, struggles, or divine interventions led Ogun to solidify his position as a god not only of war, but also of creation and transformation? The origins of Ogun's rise are woven into legends and histories that continue to intrigue and inspire those who honor him. And why does his legend still echo through time? So sit back, because this is African Myths Unveiled. In those distant primordial times, long before humankind had discovered how to work with metals, forge blades that sliced through flesh, or craft tools powerful enough to build vast civilizations, the Orishas, the divine beings revered by the Yoruba people, were the master architects of the world. It was their presence and their influence that molded the very fabric of existence, guiding the birth of life, shaping the landscapes, and establishing the spiritual foundations upon which everything else would be built. Their divine energies and sacred wisdom laid the groundwork for the universe as we know it, long before humans began to manipulate metals, wield swords, or erect sprawling empires with stone and wood. Among all the divine beings present, one in particular distinguished himself from the rest. Ogun was unlike his celestial brothers and sisters, who often wielded magic that shimmered like starlight or danced effortlessly with the gentle caress of the winds. He was a god characterized by his unyielding and primal force, a being whose true power resided not in spells or airy movements, but in the earth's most hidden and formidable depths. It was in the darkness beneath the surface, within the veins of the earth itself, that Ogun found his strength. Iron, the element of resilience and relentless might. While others might charm or sway with cosmic energies, Ogun's very essence was rooted in the raw, unbreakable strength of unrefined metal, forging a spirit forged in the fires of existence itself. Legends recount the story of Ogun's arrival into existence in a realm that was far from gentle or luminous. Instead, it was a domain defined by the fierce force of fire, the searing heat of molten rock, and the raw, unyielding energy of the Earth's core. This was a place where creation itself was forged in the fiery crucible of chaos and transformation. Ogun was born to the sky god Obatala, a figure associated with wisdom and divine authority, and the nurturing earth goddess Obudua, who embodied fertility, growth, and the life-giving power of the land. Together, they shaped his origins in a place where the elements of fire and earth collided, giving birth to a being whose spirit was imbued with both the intense fire of creation and the grounding strength of the earth beneath. But while his father skillfully sculpted humans from clay, shaping intricate forms with careful hands and a sense of artistic wonder, and his mother generously provided them with bread, nourishing their bodies and giving them life, Ogun observed that their entire world was fragile and delicate, a fragile fabric easily torn apart. It was weak, lacking the resilience and sturdiness needed to withstand the storms and tests of time, leaving Ogun with a deep sense that their existence was vulnerable and that they lacked the true strength necessary to endure through hardships and trials. His hands bore the roughness and thick, hardened skin that came from endless toil and hard work. The skin was cracked, thickened, and covered in a network of calluses that told stories of relentless effort and perseverance. His face was streaked with dark smudges of soot, remnants of long hours spent working amidst smoke and ash, leaving traces of his labor across his features. While they, in contrast, decorated themselves in shimmering gold and luxurious silks that caught the light and flaunted their wealth and elegance, Ogun chose a different kind of adornment. He displayed only the unmistakable marks of his labor, the sweat that clung to his skin from the heat of his work, the scars etched into flesh from years of craftsmanship and challenge. These signs served as a testament to his dedication, resilience, and the hard-earned pride that came from forging something with his own hands. There was no existing path or route through the cosmos that could lead them directly to Ilefind, leaving their ambitions unfulfilled and their divine aspirations in limbo. Thick, tangled forests, dense beyond imagining, stretched endlessly between them and the realization of their deepest dream, creating an almost insurmountable barrier. Every Orisha, a divine force in their own right, dedicated their power to clearing this formidable obstacle. Oya, the fierce goddess of storms and winds, called forth mighty gusts and roaring tempests, hoping to tear through the tangled canopy. Yet despite her fierce efforts and the relentless unleashing of her stormy might, the ancient trees held firm, their roots and branches unyielding to her raging winds. Sango, the mighty god of lightning and thunder, unleashed his furious power upon the land, crackling lightning bolts tearing through the sky and roaring across the heavens. Yet, despite his thunderous assault, the dense forests stood firm and unmoved, their ancient silent strength unwavering in the face of his wrath. Even Orunmila, revered as the wisest and most insightful of all the gods, searched through the depths of divine knowledge and tried every method of divination he knew, but still could not unveil a solution or any explanation for this puzzling resilience of the forests against Sango's formidable might. And so, the gods turned their gaze toward Ogun, seeking his strength and resolve. With a silent nod that conveyed his readiness and understanding, Ogun lifted his mighty iron blade, a tool forged with purpose and precision. There was no need for magic or cunning tricks, just the raw, unyielding force of steel clashing against wood. With each powerful swing of his blade, trees were brought down, their mighty trunks surrendering to his relentless might, echoing the unstoppable force of a craftsman driven by skill and determination. The dense, unyielding forest, which many believed to be completely impenetrable and impossible to cross, seemed to yield and bow beneath the relentless strength of the master of iron. His body was soaked in sweat, which poured down him in torrents, resembling a relentless rainstorm that refused to cease. His breath was heavy, coming in powerful gusts. Each inhale and exhale labored and deliberate, yet despite the exhaustion and the sweat pouring from his brow, he pressed on without hesitation. His determination was unwavering, and his focus never wavered as he pushed forward through the ancient trees and tangled vines, undeterred by the obstacles that surrounded him. For an entire week and beyond, spanning 7 long days and 7 restless nights, Ogun tirelessly forged his way through the dense and untamed wilderness. With relentless determination and unyielding strength, he battled the wilds, cutting and carving until finally, a clear and direct path to Alif Ife emerged from the chaos of the forest. As he completed his arduous journey, the Orishas gathered in joyful celebration, their voices ringing out in praise and admiration for his perseverance and skill. They lauded his courage and the significance of his achievement, recognizing the importance of the route he had forged. Yet, beneath the surface of this triumphant moment, something within Ogun shifted. A subtle yet profound change stirred deep inside him. A new awareness, a quiet transformation, a feeling that even amidst victory, the journey had altered him in ways he could not immediately articulate. He had experienced the raw, unyielding force of his iron, felt the exhilarating rush that came from the sweat and toil of his hard work, and in that moment, he truly understood. This was only the very start, the first spark of something much greater that was yet to unfold, a foundation for what was ahead, promising challenges and victories that would shape everything to come. And as the grand city of gods gradually ascended into prominence, so too did the myth and legend of Ogun grow larger and more formidable with each passing day. His influence stretched far and wide, shaping the very fabric of divine and mortal affairs alike. Yet, with such immense power at his command, the lurking shadows of danger and peril grew ever more real and imminent. It wasn't long before the gods who once sang his praises and revered him as a hero began to see him in a different light, wary, even fearful. The very beings who once celebrated his strength and valor now looked upon him with caution and trepidation, realizing that what once made him a legend could, in the wrong hands, spiral into something darker and uncontrollable. So, as his name echoed through the celestial halls and mortal realms, it carried with it a mixture of admiration and apprehension, a testament to how quickly greatness can turn into fear when the balance of power shifts so dramatically. They called him a savior, a hero, the god who carved a path where none had dared to tread before, forging a way through the darkness with unparalleled strength and resolve. His deeds were celebrated, his name spoken with reverence, and many believed he was destined to change everything. Yet, as time passed and his power grew, the once glowing praise gradually transformed into cautious whispers. The same voices that had once lifted him high now murmured in fear and suspicion. questioning the true cost of his actions and the consequences of his relentless pursuit. What had seemed like divine intervention was beginning to reveal its darker side, and those who had once celebrated him now wondered if the path he carved was leading them all toward an uncertain fate. Without ongoing struggle and conflict, even the strongest warriors or deities can unwittingly become threats to those they once swore to protect. With the way to Ile-Ife now fully open and unobstructed, the Orishas came together to construct their magnificent city, a splendid realm born from their divine will and authority. This city became a sanctuary of celestial order, a testament to their immense power and wisdom. It was truly a marvel to behold, an awe-inspiring creation. Towering golden temples soared high into the sky, their spires piercing the clouds and seeming to touch the very heavens themselves, gleaming brilliantly under the sun's rays. The streets and courtyards were filled with vibrant light, harmony, and spiritual energy, reflecting the divine purpose that guided every stone and every corner of this sacred city. It was more than just a place. It was a living symbol of the divine order the Orishas had brought forth, a beacon of greatness rooted in both beauty and celestial strength. The Orishas gathered in joyful celebration, their spirits high as they reveled in the festivities that marked this sacred occasion. Among them, Ogun, the mighty deity who had been the architect behind it all, who had forged the very paths, tools, and foundation of their existence, was deeply honored with grand feasts, overflowing with food and drink, and offerings placed with reverence at his altar. Yet, despite the exuberance and reverence directed toward him, a shadow of concern lingered in Ogun's heart. An unspoken worry gnawed at his thoughts, threatening to disturb the festive peace that surrounded him. As the Orishas basked in the glow of their triumphs and the glory that their victory had brought them, they grew increasingly confident and satisfied. Over time, this sense of achievement may have led them to become a bit too at ease, lounging in the comfort of their accomplishments. Their focus shifted away from actively tending to the world and from engaging directly with the land that sustained everyone. They no longer took the time to till the soil, plant seeds, or shape the very fabric of the world with their own hands. Instead, they relied on their reputation and the power they had already wielded, allowing complacency to take root in their divine hearts. Instead, they gradually became complacent, their attitudes softening as they reveled in their divine grandeur and elevated status. They started to luxuriate in the power and reverence they commanded, counting on mortals to serve their every whim and obey their commands without question. Ogun, however, who derived his strength not from privilege or entitlement, but from hard work, perseverance, and discipline, looked upon this decline with disdain. He held tight to his values, believing that true strength came from effort and resilience, not from indulgence or entitlement. One day, he found himself standing boldly before the mighty council of gods, whose presence alone commanded awe and reverence. His voice, powerful and resonant, echoed like thunder, reverberating through the sacred halls of Ile-Ife and causing the very walls to tremble in response. With unwavering conviction, he declared, "We are not rulers who sit idly by while others toil and labor. We are beings of strength and purpose, meant to lead by example and share in the burdens of those we govern. If we truly desire to earn our worthiness, then we must dedicate ourselves and labor just as they do, putting in the same effort and perseverance." Yet the other Orishas only laugh at such notions. "Ogun, you are revered as a god who embodies raw strength and unyielding power, not the subtleties of wisdom or insight. It is better that the mortals continue their toil and struggle. They are meant to labor and learn. Our position is beyond such mundane concerns, placing us above their worldly efforts and struggles, unaffected by their toil. Said Orunmila, the revered deity of wisdom and profound insight, spoke with a voice steady yet tinged with silent disappointment. Ogun, the mighty blacksmith god, an embodiment of strength and craftsmanship, clenched his fists tightly, his knuckles white and trembling slightly under the pressure. He had poured every ounce of his skill, his labor, and his sacrifices into shaping and forging the very world they now inhabited. He had hewn mountains from the raw earth, shaped rivers with his hammer, and forged the foundations upon which their lives depended. Yet despite all his contributions and unmatched dedication, they dismissed him as nothing more than a simple warrior, a mere fighter with no regard for the depth of his work or the significance of his efforts. His heart burned with a mixture of pride, hurt, and an unspoken feeling of being undervalued as he stood there, misunderstood and overlooked amidst the shadows of their reverence for wisdom and power. The fire burning deep within his chest blazed with an intensity that surpasses anything he had previously experienced. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, his resentment quietly but steadily intensified, fueling a growing sense of bitterness inside him. Each passing moment saw his contempt for the gods deepen, especially as he observed them reckless and carefree, seemingly oblivious to the suffering they so often caused. The more he observed their frivolous indulgences and careless actions, the more his sense of disgust intensified, gnawing at his insides and fueling his desire for change or revenge. The forge that had once served as the very foundation of his purpose and identity now seemed more like a confining prison than a place of creation. Its familiar walls and glowing fires, which once ignited his passion and drove him forward, now felt oppressive, trapping him within a cycle he could no longer bear. The city he had painstakingly constructed with his own hands, the sprawling, intricate web of streets, buildings, and hopes, began to morph in his mind into a stark symbol of his escalating anger and frustration. Every brick and every stone he laid, instead of inspiring pride, now seemed to mock him with their unfulfilled promises. And then, quite suddenly, the pressure inside him reached a breaking point. Something deep within him, long suppressed, finally snapped. Ogun, the mighty smith, turned away from the bustling city. He departed from Ilefe, fading into the rugged mountains and dense forests that stretched endlessly before him. There, amid the wilderness, the rhythmic pounding of his hammer resumed, echoing through the valleys and trees. Yet this time, he was not shaping the implements of urban life or forging the tools that built kingdoms and industries. Instead, he worked where the wilds reigned, perhaps for himself or for purposes unknown to those he left behind in the city streets. He was diligently forging weapons, tirelessly working in his workshop under the glow of the furnace. The gods, initially unaware of his efforts, eventually came to realize that they had made a grave mistake. Without Ogun, the master blacksmith, their supply of iron and strong metal tools dwindled rapidly. Iron, once abundant and easily accessible, became scarce and difficult to find, leaving a void in their arsenal. As a result, their mighty warriors, who relied on robust iron weapons, found themselves fighting with only weak, inferior bronze counterparts. Without the strength of iron, their combat effectiveness diminished significantly. Their once impregnable defenses began to crumble under relentless assault, and their power waned as their best weaponry and fortifications faded away. War erupted fiercely between the divine realm, celestial beings, and the rebellious mortals who had turned against them, now fiercely, craving and fighting for their own newfound power and independence. The grand, once glorious city of Ilife, known for its magnificence and divine beauty, now teetered dangerously on the edge of total destruction and collapse, its walls echoing with the chaos and the relentless clashes of these two opposing forces. Full of desperation and longing, the Orishas lifted their voices and called out to Ogun with all their might. In response to their plea, Ogun the Mighty returned to us, his presence undeniable. It became clear to us then that we truly rely on your incredible strength and power to face what lies ahead. Yet despite our hopes and urgent pleas, there was no reply, no sign of response from Ogun. The silence weighed heavily upon us, leaving us to wonder if our call had reached him or if we must face our struggle. Only the echoing sound of steel striking steel reverberated through the silent wilderness, a rhythmic clash that echoed between the trees and across the open landscape. Deep within this untamed terrain, Ogun, the formidable master of iron and forge, was diligently preparing for a moment of significance, something far beyond the ordinary reach of imagination. Every strike of his hammer was a deliberate act, forging not just metal, but also a destiny that would transcend what anyone could currently see or comprehend. The wildness around him remained hushed, aware on some primal level that a force of greatness was being summoned, one that would resonate through history and carve a new path in the fabric of the world. His unwavering focus and relentless determination hinted at a purpose far beyond mere craftsmanship. Something profound, something monumental was taking shape in the depths of the wilderness, just out of sight, yet profoundly felt in every echo of that metallic symphony. And when he finally returned, it wouldn't be as a savior or a hero to save the day. The gates of Ilife, once proud and formidable, still stood tall and imposing, but the city behind them was slowly falling apart, decaying from neglect and time. The grandeur they once held was now tarnished by the visible signs of decline and disrepair. Without Ogun's powerful iron, the strength and might of the warriors were severely diminished. They had become fragile and vulnerable, unable to defend their homeland or rally against any threat. The city, its people, and their defenses all depended on that divine metal, and in its absence, a sense of helplessness and uncertainty hung heavily in the air. Without his tools, the builders found themselves utterly helpless, unable to progress or repair the damage that had already been done. The once magnificent and awe-inspiring city of the gods, a place that shimmered with divine brilliance and timeless beauty, teetered dangerously on the brink of complete devastation and collapse. The fate of this divine city hung precariously in the balance, threatening to fall into ruin and oblivion with every passing moment. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, on the distant horizon, he suddenly appeared, emerging into view with purpose and resolve. His entire body bore the marks of countless fierce battles, each scar telling a story of survival and relentless struggle, while his skin was darkened and marred by the lingering soot and fiery ash of those brutal conflicts. His mighty iron sword caught the sunlight with a brilliant, almost blinding shine, reflecting its weight and power, a symbol of his unyielding strength. His eyes, fierce and unwavering, burned with an intensity so fierce and piercing that even the gods themselves, with all their divine might, seemed to hesitate or tremble in response to the fiery glow within them. He did not arrive by himself. Instead, he was accompanied by a formidable host of warriors, a countless legion of fighters who had honed their skills and mastered the art of iron in the solitude of his exile. Ogun had not spent his years wandering aimlessly in the wilderness. Every moment of that time was spent forging strength, discipline, and resilience, transforming him into a leader capable of commanding such a mighty assembly. The men behind him represented the fruits of his labor, the culmination of his relentless perseverance and unwavering dedication during his years of solitude. And now, they stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Ogun, my son, you have come back at last, safe and steadfast. Now is the time for us to set aside our differences, to forget whatever past conflicts divided us, and to unite once more. The moment demands unity, strength, and a shared purpose. Elife is calling out to you, pleading for your help and presence in this critical moment. For a brief, almost suspended moment, silence fell over everything, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The wind picked up gently, carrying with it a sharp, tangy scent reminiscent of iron mingled with the damp aroma of sweat, an unmistakable sign of recent struggle or intense effort. Ogun's fingers clenched more firmly around the hilt of his sword, his grip tightening as if to brace himself or prepare for what's to come. And now, in this very instant, you find yourself needed just as surely as Elife does. Your presence, your strength, is called for now more than ever, he said, his voice cold and devoid of warmth, as if ice had seeped into every syllable he uttered. The gods surrounding him exchanged uneasy glances, a silent acknowledgement of the tension that hung thick in the air. Even the mighty Sango, the powerful and revered god of thunder, couldn't ignore the heaviness of Ogun's words. They seemed to carry a burden that resonated deep within. Ogun, sensing the mounting unease, took a deliberate step forward, his presence commanding and unwavering, as if daring anyone to challenge what was about to be said or done. The ground beneath him trembled slightly, giving the unsettling sense that it was unstable and fragile under his feet. This was definitely not the city he had poured so much of himself into shaping and shaping again, the city that reflected his vision and hard work. Instead, what lay beneath him now was a hollowed-out shadow of its former grandeur, once majestic, vibrant, and bustling with life. It had become a mere shell of what it used to be, a ghostly remnant of a civilization long past its prime. The city's gods, once powerful and commanding respect, had grown slack and complacent. They had become too comfortable, too indulgent in their own prosperity and excess, neglecting the very foundations that once supported their greatness. I do not come back to serve as a servant, he declared firmly. If Elife cannot remain upright, independent, and strong without my presence, then I will be the one to determine how it should stand, how it ought to endure. The gods paused, their divine silence stretching out before someone finally broke it. Was this a threat? A bold challenge issued with a steady voice, daring them to respond, to confront the assertion that he controlled the fate of Elife and its destiny. However, just as the mounting tension threatened to erupt into an all-out war, a gentle yet commanding presence made itself known. Oshun, the revered goddess of rivers and wisdom, gracefully stepped forward into the midst of the gathering storm. With a calm yet firm voice, she addressed Ogun, acknowledging that his fury was understandable and perhaps even justified, given the circumstances that had stirred such strong feelings within him. Still, she gently reminded him that while his desire for vengeance or retribution was valid in its own right, allowing that anger to escalate into destructive actions would only serve to destroy what little was left of what had been lost. To truly heal and rebuild, she suggested, They must look beyond immediate anger and consider a path rooted in wisdom and renewal, one that would bring about preservation rather than further devastation. If you desire true order, then you must create it yourself, not through the chaos of war, but through the steady guidance of strong leadership. The words hit Ogun with the force of a hammer striking an anvil, resonating deeply within him. He had always understood what it meant to wield power, yet he realized that power without a clear and meaningful purpose could easily descend into chaos and destruction. He gradually lowered his sword, the movement deliberate and heavy with resolve. "Then I will take control," he proclaimed firmly, "not to be a tyrant or oppressive ruler, but to be the master of iron, of war, and of discipline. If Ilefe is to endure the hardships ahead and flourish in the face of adversity, it must be founded on strength and resilience, not on fragility or wavering allegiances. The future of the land depends on unwavering power, on the might of steel, and the resolve to confront all challenges head-on." And so, Ogun grew beyond his role as merely a warrior, transcending into a figure of immense power and authority. He evolved into a true king among the gods, commanding both respect and admiration from his divine peers. Under his wise and strong leadership, the city of Ile-Ife experienced a period of renewed prosperity and vitality, blooming once more with life and activity. The mortals, inspired by Ogun's strength and ingenuity, learned the ancient craft of blacksmithing, mastering the skill of shaping metal and forging their own tools, weapons, and implements. This newfound mastery empowered them, allowing them to build better defenses and improve their way of life, all thanks to Ogun's influence and guidance in elevating their craftsmanship. No longer would they be weak, fragile in their strength and spirit. No longer would they rely on or depend upon the lazy gods who had long since forgotten the true meaning of effort and labor. Gods who sat idly by while mortals toiled and struggled. Even after he departed from the city, having returned once more to the untamed wilderness, his influence and legacy remained alive, standing as a testament to resilience and perseverance that could not be erased or ignored. The rhythmic pounding of hammers against glowing iron echoed like the very heartbeat of civilization itself, symbolizing progress and human ingenuity. With each strike, a new creation was born. Every blade, every tool, every weapon carried the indelible essence of his spirit, a testament to his influence and craftsmanship. His presence persisted through the ages, a perpetual force embedded in the foundations of industry and strength. To this day, Ogun endures as the everlasting deity of iron, representing not only warfare, but also the labor and toil that build and sustain societies. His name remains synonymous with resilience, craftsmanship, and the relentless spirit of work, anchoring him firmly in the cultural consciousness as the eternal god of iron, war, and labor. His name is softly whispered by brave warriors just before they engage in the chaos of battle, carried on the breath of those preparing to face whatever lies ahead. It is also spoken with reverence and focus by blacksmiths as they carefully shape and mold their metal upon the anvil, each strike echoing a silent homage. For in every bright spark that leaps and dances from the fiery forge, his enduring fire continues to burn brightly, eternal and unyielding, fueling both the courage of fighters and the craft of artisans alike. Ogun's story extends far beyond simply being a recounting of battles and conflicts. It embodies a narrative about the origins of life and the universe, emphasizing themes of creation, order, and the continuous process of growth and change. His tale underscores the significance of discipline, hard work, and dedication, highlighting how these qualities shape individuals and societies alike. Ogun also symbolizes the profound power of labor, illustrating that through relentless effort and resilience, transformation and progress become possible. His journey reflects the fragile boundary that exists between destruction and renewal, showing how one can often lead to the other in the cycle of constant evolution. Ultimately, Ogun's story is a testament to the enduring spirit of perseverance and the enduring importance of balancing strength with wisdom in the pursuit of civilization among the Yoruba people, as well as throughout the wider region of West Africa. Ogun continues to be venerated with deep respect and reverence even in contemporary times. He is widely recognized and honored as the divine protector and patron of blacksmiths, warriors, and indeed all those who engage in the craft of working with iron. His influence and significance remain deeply embedded within their cultural and spiritual practices, symbolizing strength, craftsmanship, and martial prowess. This enduring reverence underscores the vital role Ogun plays not only as a mythological figure, but also as a powerful symbol of skill, protection, and resilience for communities across this vibrant part of Africa. His myth serves as a powerful reminder that genuine strength isn't solely measured by brute force or physical might, but rather by having a clear sense of purpose and conviction. It highlights that true strength comes from within, guided by intention and meaning behind one's actions. If you found Ogun's story to be captivating and inspiring, don't hesitate to share your thoughts. Leave a comment below and join the conversation. Is there a particular African myth or legend that catches your interest and that you'd like me to explore or discuss next? Don't forget to show your support by liking the content, subscribing to the channel, and clicking the notification bell so you won't miss out on more incredible and fascinating stories straight from the heart of Africa's rich and diverse mythology.